Welcome back, YouTube. Today we will be reviewing a new controller I picked up from Beaver Customs. I will say that I primarily use an Xbox controller and mostly play FPS games, but I'll try and keep it relative for all consoles. So without further ado, let's get into the review of the Beaver Customs Xbox Series X controller. Alright, so we got a lot of features, customizations to go through for this controller, so I will be looking off screen to look at my notes once in a while. I just want to apologize ahead of time for that.
And to all those affected, I want to say, we are deeply sorry.
The first thing we see here is that you have a basic pick Xbox controller that you can get, or an Xbox Series X. Basically what this gives you for $180 is you get to pick one of these pre-built custom colors that they have, and you have two rear button assignments. So you only get two buttons you can do, and that's A and B, or B and A. So you can switch them around left or right. You cannot remap those buttons on this controller. I do want to say that. It includes impulse rumbles, which are basically just rumbles for the triggers. I haven't found any use for those in any FPS games. Kind of cool, but not needed. Includes rumbles, so the pack rumbles, you can take those out. It doesn't really change the price or anything. And you get kind of a flimsy Xbox case with it. It is not the Beaver Customs case, it's just kind of a cheaper case. So if we go over to customize, I'm going to pick Xbox Series X. And the first thing you see is that you have 8 different color choices for the pre-designed base of the controller. But if you pick customize your own, you're going to have an $8 price difference there. So just keep that in mind. Now that's just the base of the controller. Every time that you add on for button colors or for different types of textures on the controller is going to add to the price significantly. And I'm going to show you. Some of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but maybe we can figure it out together. So it starts off at $95.50, not a bad price. This does have this case here, but they do charge you for that later. They just don't show it right now. You can flip the controller around and kind of see what we're doing here. Now, for each one of these, the price does increase, and it's a strange amount. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at my notes here because I wrote all this down. So for the first button, they charge you $23. You add a second one on there, it charges you $18. Now, if you add a third button, it will charge you another $12. The fourth button, another $12. And for some reason, if you add a fifth button, it charges you an additional $40. I'm not really sure why. You can see kind of the price difference here. So very strange how they do that. They also don't tell you the prices up here. They just kind of keep adding it up. So I'm going to kind of try to keep scrolling down as much as I can so you can see all that. I did pick the 4-button layout, or I'm sorry, the 6-button layout. So I have 3 on this side and 3 on this side. This will show you where all the buttons go, but when I pick remap, I don't need to actually pick what these buttons are going to be right now because I can remap them later. It is an additional $30 charge to make these remappable. Otherwise, these will be what you leave them at. So I went with medium, standard, and low. These buttons kind of lay right on top of each other. So if you do 3 on each side, I would probably go with the extra high, maybe a medium, and an extra low. And it doesn't really matter what buttons I pick, like I said, because later on I'm going to be able to remap these. Now this makes me pick a remap chip for this, but if you go to 4 buttons, I believe you can choose between static or remapping. It's an additional $30 charge, which you can see reflected here. So this is already starting to pick up in price. It's already more expensive than most controllers out there. Just something to keep in mind. And if you want to add soft buttons on the back for those new buttons that you added on, got another $5 there. There is no charge for adding or removing rumbles, so I disabled them because it just adds weight to the controller. I don't really like them. I don't have any need for them, but if you like them and you have a purpose for them, you can add them. There's no charge for this. And then we got thumbstick tension. You can go for decrease, which is 40% less than the stock tension, and then 20%, and then 75% more force is needed. If you want increased or if you want heavy, you get 150% more force is needed to move that stick.
It is absolutely 150%.
I like that. I'm going to go with that. And that's going to be $16 per side. The next thing we got is the triggers. So if you want the triggers to be race triggers, which is a unique trigger that is a hybrid between a stock trigger and a smart trigger. So basically after 50%, then it starts to click like a mouse. And then you have the mouse clicky triggers. I know a lot of pro players swear by it, but if you're just an average player and you're just playing, you know, Call of Duty or something with your friends, this is not worth it. It's just not going to give you anything. It's not going to give you any added advantage. Let's go ahead and select the mouse clicky triggers for now, just to get this basically what most people are going to buy. So let's get into some of the aesthetics. The first thing that we start off with is the faceplate. So let's go over some of the prices for the stock. Of course, there's no change. If you want the soft touch, it's another $15. If you want the matte, it's $12. And then if you want the soft touch hydro drip, it's another $15. $18 for some crystals because bitches love crystals. And then you also got the special. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go with special. Now I do know if you go with soft touch or soft touch hydro drip, you cannot add the control freak grips on later. So the next thing we have is side cap. So you got the stock, soft touch, and crystal. Once again, you can't go with the soft touch here if you're going to add those grips later. They just won't stick to it. Now, if you do want to add soft touch or crystal side caps, it's going to be another $2.50. Next, we have the rear shell. And once again, we cannot go for the soft touch. But if you do want the soft touch, it's $4.50. And you got $2.50 for the crystals. A, B, X, Y button. So if you want the stock, obviously there's no charge there. If you want to go ahead and go with the crystal buttons, it's $5.50. Soft touch Xbox buttons, it is another $7. Next, we have the D-pad, and you can add soft touch or crystal. This is fine. This is not going to affect your grips at all because your grips are going to go here. So if you want to pick one of these, you can totally do that. Kind of cool looking. If you want to change things up a bit, it's another $3 either way. Then we got the menu and the view share buttons. If you want to change those to crystal or soft touch, another $3 there. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, the next one we have is thumbsticks. We have left and right thumbsticks. So you're gonna have to forgive me on this. I do have to look at my notes, but this is gonna charge you per side. So keep that in mind. Let me see. And then we got triggers. You can do soft touch or crystal. And then you have $7 for the soft touch and another $4.50 for the crystal triggers. Bumpers. We have soft touch and crystal once again. So this is interesting because if you pick crystal for the triggers, it's $4.50, but for the bumpers, it is $4 difference. So I'm not really sure why that is, but so this is another interesting one. This is the LED colors on, I think it's just the menu button here, the center Beaver logo there. So the white light you don't get charged for, but if you want to add any of these other colors, it's going to be $4.99, except for this blue light, which is another penny for some reason. So they charge you a penny more for that one. And then if you want the multicolored one that kind of rotates through all the colors, that's an additional $9. The home button, they don't make any changes or any charges for you picking the Battle Beaver logo or the Xbox logo, but you're getting a Battle Beaver controller, so let's get the Battle Beaver logo on there. Next thing we have is the rear button caps that go over your new added buttons. They have something called the Beaver tail. They do have an example here of what it looks like. And it's kind of like these texturized grip buttons. So if you want those, it's $1 more than just a standard regular button. You can pick any color you want for these. That's just going to cost you $1 less. So let's go ahead and go with these beaver tail buttons. And then we have the Control Freak grips. Once again, if you're going to add these on there, it's not a price difference if you have them do it or if you put it on yourself. So you might as well have them do it. It's still $15, so I go ahead and put that on there. Okay, that's it for the aesthetics. Let's get into the warranty. You do get a 30-day money-back guarantee on this controller.
Here, I owe you a refund. Here you go.
So apparently you can ship this back to them and just get your money back within 30 days. If you want to add another 90 days onto that, it's another $14.99. I did want to mention that Microsoft does have a 90-day warranty on their Elite Series 2 controller, but looking it up online, I saw that they actually extended that to 12 months. So you do get a year on that controller. So just something to keep in mind. Next, we have accessories. We have a premium USB-C cable for 10 feet. It's going to cost you $11. If you want the 4-foot one, it's going to be $9 additional. So let's go ahead and add the 10-foot one. Next, we have stickers. I don't want any of that shit on my controller, so I'm going to put none. So now this build time is a very long time, 12 to 14 weeks. So this is a big issue for a lot of people because if you use your controller every single day like I do, and if something breaks on it or you get some dead zone or stick drift on the controller, it's going to take you a very long time to get a new one. This is a big turnoff for a lot of people, including me. This is one of the reasons why I'm probably not going to use this controller long term, but just keep in mind, it takes 12 to 14 weeks for this thing to get built, and then you also have shipping on top of that, and there is some COVID delay times that they're still warning you about on their websites. All in all, for me to get this controller in, it took me 5 months. I do want to also mention that I did reach out to Battle Beaver Customs about 3 months after I ordered the controller to ask them about the status of my controller, and there was no response. Now, the issue that I have with that is if you're paying $374.99 for a controller, you should have some type of premium service or some type of customer care support. I'm sure they do, and I'm sure there's reasons for, you know, with COVID and everything going on that they can't get to everybody. But I mean, at least get back to people and let them know that, you know, there's some delayed times and give them a status update. And now we have ship with a Battle Beaver protective case or economic cardboard packaging. If you want to have the Battle Beaver protective case, it's going to be another $7.50, or if you want to get just the cardboard box, you can pay a little bit less. And then you can add a custom nameplate if you want to put your name on there or something like that. It's going to be another $8. I think for each of these it does, yeah, so there's different prices for each of these. Let's go with black aluminum, and then build notes if you want to let them know anything about your build, that you, any special things that you request. So then you go ahead and go to create my controller, and then you go through the whole shipping process, and then you got a shipping charge. All right, so when you go to checkout, you can go ahead and get your shipping details. It's going to be different for everybody, so I'm not going to go through that process right now. Okay, so now let's take a look at the controller that I got in after nearly 5 months of waiting for this Battle Beaver Customs controller. This is the case that they give you right here. As you can see, it is actually a very cheap case. There's some cheap foam in here that is not super nice. It just doesn't feel like it's very well built for the price that I paid for this. The first thing I do really like about this controller is it's super lightweight. So if you're playing like 6-7 hours at a time, this is not going to be a problem in terms of like weight and like your wrist. It doesn't seem like it would be an issue. You're talking about like ounces here. It does help to have something that's very nice and lightweight. They do include instructions on how to remap the buttons on the back. It's not very complicated at all, so that's one of the things I did like. You can actually do this in game, so it's actually not that hard once you kind of get the process down and memorized. So I do like that quite a bit. And then the last thing that I'm very happy about is I do like the way this controller looks because of all the customizations that you can do with the different textures and the different colors. I think they actually do a very good job in terms of their customization skills for these controllers. But that's pretty much where everything ends, because this is essentially just a stock Xbox controller. There's nothing really special about it. It's got some holes drilled in the back for some buttons, and then you got the clicky triggers. But you can get these mods for these controllers for a lot cheaper on Amazon. So I'm not really sure that this controller is really worth it for me. Now, I don't know if this is because this is the layout that I chose, but the buttons that I added on the back are absolutely unusable in this formation in terms of having 3 of them. I actually had to take out the middle buttons on both sides so that way I could reach the 2, because the middle button is overlapping with the other 2 buttons. I do really wish that the previews that they show for these button layouts were a little bit more realistic as to what they are in real life, because I wouldn't have chosen this formation had I known that the middle button was going to be overlapping the other ones and not be usable. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. And lastly, the customer service is absolutely non-existent. At least in my experience, it was. So I mean, if you do buy one, hopefully that you do and you need some help, you do get the help that you need with it. But in my experience, I had 0 interaction with them until the thing was delivered. Overall, I would say I'm pretty disappointed, because I do expect to have a little bit more of a premium service and packaging, delivery, the case, everything for what I paid for this. Just to give you an example, the Xbox Series 2 controller, I know I mentioned that controller a lot, but it truly is a lot of value for what I paid for it. It's about $215 cheaper. You get a way better case, you get a way better controller, you get a cool app where you can do all the dynamic response curves and everything you want to do. You can format everything, remap all the buttons from the app. I just think it's a way better experience. And then you also get the added advantage of having customer service from a big corporation like Microsoft. I like to support the smaller companies that are doing this, but if you're going to charge someone $400 for a controller, I think we need to put a little bit more effort in. And lastly, if you are a pro gamer or you're a pro streamer, you play video games quite a bit, you do know that you go through controllers quite a bit. So if you have to wait 14 weeks, 4 months, 3 months, whatever it is, for you to get this controller in, it's going to be a cheaper controller because it's just a stock controller. So these sticks are going to wear out. You need to have resources where you can get these controllers replaced kind of quickly. And if you do need customer service or something like that to return it, you would expect to have some type of response system that's pretty immediate. So overall, I would say that you're pretty much paying for some really cool aesthetic customizations, which they do a very good job at. But in terms of the buttons or something like that, I think there's a lot better options out there. It's just not viable. If you found this video helpful and like to stay up to date with my next product review, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. Support is greatly appreciated, and we'll see you on the next one.